Career victory is often misunderstood as a direct outcome of competence, effort, qualifications, and consistent hard work. While these elements are undeniably important, they do not fully explain why some highly capable individuals progress smoothly in their careers, while others, with similar or even greater ability, experience repeated delays, misunderstandings, or stagnation. This reveals an important truth. Professional advancement is not governed by performance alone, but also by discernment, strategy, and awareness of unseen dynamics within environments. In every workplace or professional system, there are visible structures and invisible influences operating simultaneously. The visible side includes tasks, responsibilities, job descriptions, performance reviews, and measurable outcomes. These are the aspects most people focus on because they are tangible and straightforward to evaluate. However, beneath this visible layer exists another dimension shaped by relationships, perception, on influence, communication patterns, timing, and internal organizational dynamics. These factors often determine how opportunities are distributed, how contributions are recognized, and how progress unfolds. Career environments are rarely neutral spaces. They are composed of human interactions, and human interactions are influenced by emotions, biases, interpretations, preferences, and sometimes competition. Because of this complexity, outcomes are not always determined solely by merit. A person may perform excellently yet still experience delayed recognition if their contribution is not properly perceived, communicated, or understood within the system. Another individual may advance more quickly, not necessarily because of higher ability, but because of better positioning or stronger relational alignment. This is why discernment becomes essential. Discernment is the ability to interpret patterns accurately rather than reacting to isolated events. Without discernment, a person may interpret every challenge as random, purely technical, or self-inflicted, missing deeper patterns that may be influencing outcomes over time. At the same time, it is important to avoid extreme suspicion. Not every difficulty is evidence of hidden opposition. Some challenges are part of normal growth, organizational structure, or skill development. Wisdom lies in distinguishing between ordinary obstacles and consistent patterns that require attention. Hidden opposition in professional settings is rarely direct or obvious. It often manifests subtly through repeated patterns rather than clear confrontation. These may include situations where a person's work is consistently overlooked despite quality output, where opportunities repeatedly bypass them without clear explanation, or where communication of their contributions is frequently misunderstood or minimized. Individually, these events may appear insignificant, but when they form a consistent pattern over time, they begin to reveal a deeper structure that should not be ignored. Another important aspect is perception. In many professional environments, perception can influence outcomes as much as actual performance. This does not reduce the value of excellence, rather, it highlights the importance of ensuring that excellence is visible, communicated, and properly understood. A person may be highly competent but poorly positioned in terms of visibility. They may produce strong results but fail to translate those results into recognized value within the system. Without strategic awareness, this gap can limit advancement. Timing also plays a significant role in career progression. Opportunities often depend not only on readiness but also on alignment with organizational needs, decision cycles, leadership perception, and broader contextual factors. Sometimes a person may repeatedly encounter situations where advancement seems close but is delayed at critical points. While occasional delay is normal, repeated patterns of interruption at decisive moments may require deeper evaluation and strategic adjustment rather than emotional reaction. Emotional intelligence is another critical factor in navigating complex career environments. Reactivity can distort judgment and reduce effectiveness. When individuals respond impulsively to misunderstanding, perceived injustice, or workplace tension, they may unintentionally weaken their position or escalate unnecessary conflict. In contrast, disciplined response allows for clearer thinking, better communication, and more strategic engagement. Emotional stability preserves influence even in difficult circumstances. Spiritual intelligence, in a broader sense of discernment and internal clarity, also contributes to stability in professional environments. It supports the ability to remain grounded, observant, and thoughtful rather than overwhelmed by immediate pressure or confusion. This form of inner clarity helps a person maintain perspective during uncertainty and avoid decisions driven purely by emotion or assumption. Ultimately, career success is not only about working hard or being qualified, it is about combining excellence with wisdom, awareness, timing, and discernment. When these elements are integrated, a person becomes better equipped to recognize patterns, respond strategically, and navigate professional environments with clarity and stability. In such a state, hidden resistance loses much of its influence, and career progress becomes more intentional, sustainable, and aligned. Not every form of opposition in a career environment is visible, direct, or easy to identify. In fact, some of the most influential forms of resistance operate quietly, without open confrontation or obvious hostility. This is what makes professional environments complex. A person may be focused on doing their work diligently while unaware that certain patterns around them are shaping outcomes in subtle ways over time. Understanding this reality requires maturity, observation, and careful interpretation rather than emotional reaction. Hidden opposition often works through influence rather than force. It may appear through how information is shared, how decisions are communicated, how opportunities are distributed, or how contributions are perceived within a system. A person may not be directly opposed, yet still find themselves consistently excluded from key conversations, overlooked in important decisions, or misunderstood in ways that affect advancement. These experiences can be confusing because they are not always explained openly or justified clearly. One important principle is that hidden dynamics are usually revealed through patterns, not isolated incidents. A single misunderstanding or delay may not indicate anything significant. However, when similar experiences repeat over time in different forms, at different stages and around different opportunities, it becomes necessary to observe more carefully. Patterns are often more relevant than events. They show direction, not just occurrence. Discernment helps a person avoid two extremes in this process. The first extreme is paranoia, where every challenge is interpreted as intentional opposition. This leads to emotional instability, mistrust, and poor decision-making. The second extreme is complete dismissal, where a person ignores consistent patterns that actually require attention. Wisdom sits between these extremes. It allows a person to observe without fear and evaluate without denial. In many cases, hidden resistance is not always personal. It may arise from organizational structures, internal competition, communication gaps, or differing priorities among leadership and teams. Understanding this helps reduce emotional interpretation and encourages more strategic thinking. The goal is not to assign blame unnecessarily, but to recognize reality clearly so that appropriate responses can be made. Another dimension of hidden opposition is misrepresentation. A person's work, intentions, or contributions may sometimes be interpreted differently by others, not necessarily due to malice, but due to incomplete understanding or filtered communication. Over time, however, repeated misrepresentation can affect reputation and influence. This is why clarity in communication becomes essential in professional environments. Strategic awareness involves not only doing excellent work, but ensuring that work is properly positioned and understood within the system. Visibility, communication, documentation, and relational intelligence all play a role in how contributions are received. Without this awareness, even strong performance can remain under-recognized. Emotional intelligence also becomes critical in responding to hidden dynamics. When individuals react impulsively to perceived injustice or exclusion, they may unintentionally weaken their position. Calm evaluation, thoughtful response, and measured communication help preserve credibility and influence. Stability often speaks louder than reaction in complex environments. It is also important to recognize that some resistance may serve as development rather than obstruction. Certain challenges reveal gaps in communication, skill, timing, or strategy that need refinement. Distinguishing between developmental pressure and consistent obstruction requires reflection and honest assessment rather than assumption. Ultimately, hidden opposition loses much of its influence when a person develops clarity, discipline, and discernment. When patterns are recognized accurately and responded to wisely, confusion decreases and strategy improves. Instead of being driven by uncertainty, a person begins to operate with awareness and direction. In that state, professional environments become easier to navigate and career progress becomes more stable, intentional, and resilient even in the presence of unseen dynamics. Discernment in career environments is one of the most important yet most overlooked elements of long-term professional success. Many individuals approach their work primarily through the lens of skill, effort, and technical competence, assuming that excellence alone will guarantee advancement. While excellence is essential, it is not sufficient in isolation. Without discernment, even highly skilled individuals can misinterpret situations, respond inappropriately to challenges, or miss critical patterns that influence their trajectory over time. Discernment is the ability to perceive beyond surface-level events and understand underlying dynamics that are not immediately visible. In a workplace setting, this includes the ability to recognize patterns in communication, decision-making processes, relational dynamics, timing of opportunities, and shifts in organizational behavior. It is not about suspicion, but about clarity. It allows a person to see more accurately what is happening beneath the surface so that their responses are informed rather than reactive. One of the primary benefits of discernment is emotional stability. Without discernment, individuals often interpret workplace challenges purely through emotion. A delay in promotion may be seen as rejection. A miscommunication may be interpreted as hostility. A missed opportunity may be taken as personal failure. These interpretations, when left unchecked, can create unnecessary frustration and internal instability. Discernment helps reframe these experiences, allowing a person to evaluate situations more objectively and respond with greater composure. Another key function of discernment is strategic positioning. Career advancement is not only about doing the right work, but also about being in the right place at the right time, with the right visibility and alignment. Discernment helps a person understand how decisions are made, how influence flows within an organization, and how contributions are recognized. This awareness allows for more intentional engagement rather than random or unfocused. D-effort, discernment also protects against misjudgment. In complex environments, not every obstacle is evidence of opposition, and not every challenge is a sign of external resistance. Some difficulties are part of normal organizational structure, skill development, or timing constraints. Without discernment, a person may overinterpret these challenges, leading to unnecessary emotional strain or poor strategic decisions. On the other hand, lack of discernment can also cause underestimation of real patterns that require attention. Wisdom lies in accurate interpretation. Developing discernment requires observation over time. Patterns are not always visible immediately. They become clear through consistent experience, reflection, and careful attention to recurring themes. A single event rarely tells the full story. However, repeated experiences that follow a similar structure often reveal deeper realities that deserve attention. This is why patience and reflection are essential components. Enters of discernment. Communication also plays a significant role. Many workplace misunderstandings arise not from intentional opposition, but from unclear, incomplete, or poorly timed communication. Discernment helps a person recognize when clarification is needed, when silence is appropriate, and when strategic communication can prevent unnecessary confusion. It strengthens both understanding and relational stability. Another important aspect of discernment is timing awareness. Opportunities in career environments are often influenced by cycles, decision windows, leadership priorities, and organizational needs. A person with discernment can better recognize when to act, when to wait, and when to prepare. This reduces wasted effort and increases alignment with actual opportunities for advancement. Ultimately, discernment transforms how a person navigates their professional environment. Instead of reacting impulsively to every challenge, they begin to respond thoughtfully. Instead of interpreting every obstacle as opposition, they evaluate situations with clarity. Instead of being driven by confusion, they operate with understanding. In this state, career environments become less overwhelming and more navigable, and professional growth becomes more intentional, stable, and strategically aligned over time. Hidden enemies in the workplace are not always individuals acting with clear or visible intent. In many professional environments, what is experienced as opposition is often a combination of influence, perception, miscommunication, competition, and structural dynamics that operate beneath the surface of daily interactions. Understanding this complexity is essential because misidentifying the source of resistance can lead to emotional instability, poor decisions, and unnecessary conflict. Hidden opposition often reveals itself through patterns rather than direct confrontation. These patterns may include repeated exclusion from key opportunities, consistent misinterpretation of contributions, delayed recognition despite sustained performance, or subtle undermining of credibility in decision-making spaces. While any single occurrence may appear insignificant, repetition over time becomes meaningful. Patterns provide insight into underlying dynamics that isolated events cannot fully explain. One important principle is that not all resistance is personal. In many cases, workplace challenges are influenced by structural systems, organizational priorities, communication gaps, or shifting leadership expectations. When individuals interpret every difficulty as intentional opposition, they risk falling into emotional assumptions that distort judgment. This is why discernment is necessary. It allows a person to separate emotional interpretation from factual observation. At the same time, ignoring consistent patterns is equally unwise. There are situations where resistance is not accidental but influenced by relational dynamics, perception biases, or co-MPETIVITE environments. In such cases, awareness is necessary in order to respond strategically rather than react emotionally. The key is balance, neither paranoia nor denial, but accurate assessment. One of the most common forms of hidden opposition is misrepresentation. This occurs when a person's work, intentions, or contributions are not accurately understood or communicated within the system. Misrepresentation may not always be intentional, but its effects can still influence perception, trust, and opportunity distribution. Over time, repeated misrepresentation can significantly impact career progression if not addressed with clarity and strategic communication. Another form is relational positioning. In many workplaces, influence is not only determined by performance, but also by relationships, visibility, and communication channels. A person may be highly competent, but positioned outside key conversations or decision-making loops. This can create the impression of resistance. And when direct opposition is absent, discernment helps identify whether the issue is relational positioning rather than personal targeting. Timing-related resistance is also significant. Opportunities may appear delayed or repeatedly interrupted at critical moments. While this may sometimes be coincidental, recurring patterns of interruption at pivotal stages warrant reflection. Understanding organizational timing, decision cycles, and leadership priorities becomes essential in such situations. Emotional intelligence plays a critical role in responding to hidden dynamics. Reactive responses often escalate tension or reduce credibility. In contrast, measured responses preserve stability and maintain professional influence. A composed approach allows a person to navigate complexity without becoming entangled in unnecessary conflict. It is also important to recognize that some challenges serve developmental purposes. Difficult environments can expose gaps in communication, skill application, or strategic awareness. Not every obstacle is obstruction. Some are feedback mechanisms that highlight areas for improvement. Discernment helps distinguish between developmental pressure and persistent resistance. Ultimately, hidden enemies lose much of their influence when clarity replaces confusion. When patterns are observed accurately, interpreted wisely, and addressed strategically, emotional instability decreases and professional direction becomes clearer. Instead of being controlled by unseen dynamics, a person begins to navigate them with awareness, stability, and intentional action. Excellence alone is not enough for sustainable career victory, because excellence, while powerful, operates within a larger system of interpretation, timing, perception, and relational dynamics. Many people assume that consistent performance automatically guarantees recognition and advancement. However, real-world professional environments are more complex. Performance is essential, but it is only one dimension of what determines long-term success. Excellence refers to the consistent delivery of high-quality work, reliability, and competence in assigned responsibilities. It builds credibility and establishes trust over time. However, excellence without wisdom can still lead to frustration if it is not accompanied by awareness of how environments function. A person may be highly skilled yet remain underutilized, misunderstood, or overlooked if they lack strategic insight. Wisdom is the ability to apply knowledge effectively within context. It includes understanding timing, communication, positioning, and relational dynamics. In career environments, wisdom ensures that excellence is not isolated but integrated into systems that allow it to be seen, valued, and rewarded appropriately. Without wisdom, effort may be high, but impact may be limited. One of the key realities of professional environments is that visibility matters. Work that is not properly communicated or presented receive the recognition it deserves, regardless of quality. This does not diminish the value of excellence. Rather, it highlights the importance of ensuring that excellence is not hidden or disconnected from decision-making channels. Another important factor is alignment. Organizations operate based on priorities, goals, and strategic direction. A person may perform excellently in areas that are not currently prioritized, which can result in delayed recognition. Wisdom involves understanding not only how to perform well, but also where performance has the greatest strategic value at a given time. Relational intelligence is also a critical component of career advancement. Professional environments are influenced by communication networks, trust structures, and collaborative relationships. A person who operates in isolation may find it more difficult to navigate opportunities, even if their performance is strong. Wisdom includes the ability to engage effectively with people. While maintaining professionalism and integrity, timing continues to play a significant role. Opportunities often arise in cycles influenced by organizational change, leadership decisions, market conditions, or internal restructuring. Excellence ensures readiness, but wisdom ensures proper positioning when timing becomes favorable. Without awareness of timing, even excellent work may not translate into immediate advancement. Another important consideration is adaptability. Professional environments are not static. Expectations shift, responsibilities evolve, and systems change. A person who relies only on past methods of excellence may struggle when conditions change. Wisdom allows for adjustment without loss of quality or integrity. Emotional stability is also essential. Frustration can arise when excellence does not immediately lead to recognition. However, reactive responses to delayed outcomes can weaken credibility. Wisdom encourages patience, consistency, and strategic evaluation. Reaction rather than emotional reaction. Ultimately, excellence creates a foundation, but wisdom determines direction. Excellence builds capability, but wisdom ensures impact. When both are combined, a person not only performs well, but also navigates systems effectively, positions themselves strategically, and sustains long-term growth in complex professional environments. Hidden workplace dynamics often operate in ways that are not immediately obvious, yet they significantly influence career progression, perception, and opportunity distribution. Understanding these dynamics requires moving beyond surface-level interpretation and developing the ability to observe patterns, relationships, and systemic behavior over time. Without this awareness, individuals may misread situations, overreact to normal challenges, or overlook important signals that affect their professional trajectory. One of the most important truths in professional environments is that influence is not always directly visible. Decisions are often shaped not only by performance but also by perception, communication flow, trust networks, and relational positioning. A person may be highly competent yet still find themselves excluded from key conversations or opportunities if they are not integrated into the relevant communication channels. This does not always indicate intentional opposition, but it does reveal structural realities that must be understood. Hidden dynamics often manifest through repetition rather than isolated incidents. For example, a single missed opportunity or misunderstanding may be accidental. However, when similar patterns occur repeatedly over time, such as consistent delays in recognition, frequent miscommunication of contributions, or recurring exclusion from strategic discussions, it becomes necessary to evaluate whether a deeper pattern is present. Patterns provide insight into system behavior that individual events cannot fully explain. Another dimension of workplace dynamics is perception management. In many environments, how work is perceived can significantly influence how it is valued. This includes not only the quality of output, but also how clearly it is communicated, how consistently it is visible to decision makers, and how effectively it is positioned within organizational priorities. A lack of visibility can unintentionally create the impression of underperformance, even when actual performance is strong. Communication structures also play a critical role. Information does not always flow evenly within organizations. Some individuals may have greater access to decision-making conversations, while others may operate at the periphery. This difference in access can influence how opportunities are distributed and how contributions are recognized. Awareness of communication pathways is therefore essential for understanding how influence operates. Another hidden factor is relational alignment. Professional environments are built on relationships that often influence collaboration, trust, and opportunity. Misalignment in relationships can lead to misunderstandings or reduced influence even without direct conflict. Conversely, strong alignment can enhance visibility and create access to opportunities that may not be available through performance alone. Timing and organizational cycles also shape outcomes. Opportunities often emerge in alignment with restructuring, leadership changes, strategic shifts, or resource allocation cycles. A person may be well prepared yet still experience delay if timing does not align with organizational needs. Understanding timing helps reduce misinterpretation of delays as opposition. Emotional intelligence is essential when navigating these dynamics. Without emotional stability, individuals may interpret normal organizational processes as personal resistance, leading to frustration or reactive decisions. A calm, reflective approach allows for clearer interpretation and more strategic responses. It is also important to recognize that not all hidden dynamics are negative. Some reflect natural complexity within systems rather than intentional obstruction. However, awareness of these dynamics allows individuals to position themselves more effectively, communicate more clearly, and respond more strategically. Ultimately, understanding hidden workplace dynamics is not about suspicion, but about clarity. When a person learns to observe patterns, understand systems, and interpret relationships accurately, they gain the ability to navigate their environment with greater wisdom. This awareness reduces confusion, strengthens decision-making, and supports more consistent and sustainable career growth over time.